Immediately, he said he wanted to take responsibility for the shootings in Montauban and in Toulouse. The only part of what he was saying that I thought was choreographed were the details that he said only could be known by the police or the perpetrators of these acts. So he gave very specific material details of the circumstances, especially about the bullet casings, the number, and there were material items at the murder sites that he shared with me. He wouldn't share his identity, his personal identity, but he said that he was affiliated to al-Qaeda. That was made very clear. However, he didn't want to expand on whether this group or whether he acted solo or whether this was a group. But he would interchangeably say me, je, and nous, us. The motives were also very clear. He said it was to protest against France's recent law banning the Islamic veil, and also protesting against France's participation in the Afghanistan war effort. As for the attack on the Jewish school, he was adamant that it was revenge for the killings of what he termed my little brothers and sisters in Palestine.
You said that he did not reveal his identity, but how did he sound? Describe what you heard. Young.
Very young, early 20s, very well spoken, extremely convinced of what he was saying, sincerely convinced.
The Mujahideen calc, sometimes referred to as the MEK, the MKO, the PMOI, the NCRI, or perhaps more fittingly, the Cult of Rajavi, is a strange terrorist group by anyone's reckoning. They wear identical khaki uniforms and headscarves, singing songs to their cult leaders, Maqsood Rajavi and his wife Mariam. They adhere to an eclectic mix of ideological influences, having been variously described as Marxists, Messianic Shiites, and even secular Democrats. And they are a U.S. State Department-designated terrorist organization that has been responsible for bombings, attempted plane hijackings, political assassinations, and indiscriminate killings of men, women, and children. But this is not your average terror group. These are not like the blue jeans wearing, cash-paying, Constitution-loving, third-party candidate supporting, picture-taking terrorists that the Department of Fatherland Security have been warning the American public about for years now. These are not the 3-year-old boys in wheelchairs that the upstanding men and women of the TSA have been patting down as potential bomb-wearing suicide jihadis since 9/11. No, these are the kind of terrorists that the Afghan Mujahideen were back when they were the freedom fighters fighting the Ruskies in the 80s, before they became the Taliban of today. These are the kinds of terrorists like Saddam Hussein was when he was our man in the Middle East, gassing his Kurdish population with US-supplied weapons, before he refused to disarm his non-existent stockpile for Bush and Blair. These are our kind of terrorists.
Secretary Ridge, I just want to define for our viewers what this is. This is a group called MEK, and as we understand it, they're people who are committed to a secular, democratic, and non-nuclear Iran. They sound important to Iran's future.
So, again, to you and to those in the camp, there are many voices and many strong advocates for you around the world. They hear your cry for freedom, and they are with you. So too, Ms. Rajvi, the world must support such a courageous patriot and freedom fighter.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Wednesday, March 21st, 2012, and I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com. And on YouTube, ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. I haven't uploaded the ddarko2013 videos yet, so just hang in there. Okay, so I'm just going to get started here. The ex-FBI informant, well, you're going to see some, just one quick note, you're going to see some interesting links that are made in this video. So just all the headlines, links will be posted in YouTube's video description. Check them out. The ex-FBI informant with a change of heart, there is no real hunt, it's fixed, says here he describes how he pretended to be a radical Muslim in order to root out potential threats, shining a light on some of the Bureau's more ethically murky practices, talking about entrapment, which is most of it is like the Christmas Day bomber, and that he was involved in one of the most controversial tactics, the use of confidential informants in so-called entrapment cases, and that's why they used the word handler with him. This is when suspects carry out or plot fake terrorist attacks at the request or under the close supervision of an FBI undercover operation, which the Christmas Day bomber was. They admitted that the feds were handling him using secret informants. In the case of Fort Dix 5, which involved a fake plan to attack a New Jersey military base, one informant's criminal past including attempted murder, while another admitted in court at least 2 of the other suspects, later jailed for life, had not known of any plot. Finishing up, it says here that he has regrets now about his involvement in a scheme called Operation Flex. Next up, ISI funding insurgency in northeast Bangladesh, says ex-ISI chief. And we have right here, India's arms mostly target Pakistan. And, you know, we've covered this before as far as the ISI being in the Western hands, and that a lot of these terrorist attacks in India are carried out by intelligence agencies. Which is crazy because, you know, India, the way I see it is they're pro-West with their caste system and that. And, you know, you have China who supposedly is against India. They don't like India. They're at odds with India and China. And yet China's backing Pakistan, and yet we have our intelligence agencies and our military infrastructure embedded in Pakistan and their government and everything. So it kind of just goes to show you how most of these countries are corporations. They're all just one big one, and it's a big business. But terrorism, the threat of terrorism, is a big business too. They get a lot of money for that, and then that's what it does. It cracks down on 4-year-olds in wheelchairs trying to get on an airplane. Call to rein in counter-terrorism laws. Leading criminal barristers have called for aspects of Australia's anti-terrorism regime to be reined in, saying that the laws were an overreaction to the threats perceived in the wake of the false flag government-sponsored terrorist attack on September 11th, 2001. Next up, we have French hunt school killer, suspect neo-Nazi ties. So neo-Nazi ties kind of sparks resemblance of the Norway Breivik. I remember seeing reports saying that he was actually possibly let out of a helicopter, you know what I mean, by his handlers. But it's good for places that have like strong national roots. The only problem is that, you know, a lot of those people, you know, they tend not to get the memo that nationalism is dead. So it's just used against them. It says here, Toulouse shooting al-Qaeda links an election gift for Marine Le Pen. So the standoff with the Frenchman says here that's going to help her presidential race. But look at this. France shootings was a false flag attack to get Sarkozy reelected as president. So you go figure what it's going to actually do. But it says here, White House backs bin Laden's claim that killing bin Laden was the boldest mission in 500 years. That's right. You can go back 500 years. You cannot find a more audacious plan, referring to Obama's killing of bin Laden. So the only other thing that's more comical than this headline or story, besides bin Laden being dead, is that bin Laden had plotted to kill President Obama. See, he wasn't even president yet, and yet a dead man, bin Laden, who was already dead before he came into office, was plotting to kill them. So there you go. This is pure nonsense. U.S. general suggests Afghan force should stay level after 12 drawdown. So what did we get? Well, we got this little thing. Staff Sergeant Robert Bales' neighbors described Afghan massacre, the lone gunman, right? There's always a lone gunman suspect, as a good guy. So he was a good guy. He was a family man, right? And then we started seeing this stuff. Afghan murder suspect Bales took my life savings, so he's a piece of shit now, and he stole all my money. You know, and the lone gunman, right? Afghan massacre, mass murder by 2 death squads with air support. U.S. cover-up of Afghan massacre unravels as probe finds 2 groups of U.S. soldiers carry out executions of 16 civilians, allegedly with full air support. I don't know if this is true because I think he's a puppet, but either way, the Afghan parliament members, investigators are going on there and compiling a bunch of evidence that points to a clear cover-up of the massacre by the U.S. government. Next up, we have up to 20 U.S. troops behind Kandahar bloodbath, Afghan probe says, so another source. Is the U.S. covering for additional troops involved in Afghan massacre? And I think so. That's what I thought right off the get-go. UNSC statement on Syria backs Kofi Annan's peace plan. So it says here, the United Nations Security Council has issued a statement calling on the Syrian government to immediately carry out a peace plan proposed by, or being forced on their throats by, the UN Arab League. UN Arab League, the nice Arab, Kofi Annan, right? So who is he? Well, UN's Kofi Annan, an agent of Wall Street. That's right. It goes on and says, Annan is a trustee of Wall Street speculator George Soros and geopolitical manipulator Zbigniew Brzezinski, International Crisis Group, along with neocon corporate lobbyist and warmonger Kenneth Aldman. It should be mentioned at this time that the International Crisis Group, of which Annan serves as a trustee for, is funded by the following corporate financier interests: the Carnegie Corporation, Humanity United, Jewish World Watch, Open Society, Rockefeller Brothers, Chevron, Shell, and the list keeps going, so you can go in there and check it out. Deutsche Bank. Soros-funded Human Rights Watch jumps on Kony 2012 African Crusade. It's basically a sinking ship. That makes sense. A year later, Human Rights Watch admits Syrian rebels guilty of atrocities. It says here, just as it did in Libya, waited until the very last possible moment to admit what the alternative media had been reporting for over a year, that Syrian rebels are craving, torturing, kidnapping, murdering terrorists, committing widespread and systematic atrocities, not only to the security forces, but against anyone suspected of supporting the Syrian government, as well as randomly target civilians. So these are some of the partners of Human Rights Watch, and go there and check it out. U.S. mercenary took part in Gaddafi killing, sent to assist in Syrian opposition. U.S. government officials requested that American private security firm contact Syrian opposition figures in Turkey to see how they can help in regime change. The CEO of one of these firms told Stratfor and a company an email obtained by WikiLeaks and Al-Akbar. The security firm has experience in regime changes in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya. Says here that he is a former director of Blackwater, currently the chief executive of this company. Next up, we have al-Qaeda leaders eye opportunities in Syria. This is from March 12th to give you some background and a double think here. Islamists claim Syria bombs were to avenge the Sunnis. So they're talking about al-Qaeda, right? The good guys that are on our side, like the Mujahideen. MEK says fairy tales, no Russian warships, anti-terror squads in Syria. So this will make your head spin. The foreign minister of Russia said these fairy tales are aimed at disrupting the mission of UN Arab League Special Envoy Kofi Annan. So I don't know what to figure. You can put that in your pipe and smoke it, though. It says here, Iran now says it will not block the Strait of Hormuz. So this is coming from Reuters reporting on a Kuwaiti ruler getting assurances from Iran. So I'm not sure if I actually believe that. But it says here, Obama energy order feeds Iran war. And it goes on here, says this new executive order that gives government control over the nation's natural resources in the event of a national emergency is either a serious power grip or another sign that inside the deep recesses of the White House they are preparing for war, says Phil Flynn, energy analyst of PFG Best. U.S. attempts 10 EU states plus Japan from Iran's sanctions. So as I mentioned before, based off that article that I presented, anti-Iran sanctions have turned into opportunities for the country, Iranian nation, to achieve self-sufficiency. That's right, they're going to undercut the other gas suppliers, fuel suppliers, or oil. Pentagon war game forecast U.S. would be pulled into a new war if Israel strikes Iran, like World War II with Pearl Harbor. You're just going to get roped into it. Israelis grow confident and strike on Iran's nukes can work. It will work. We have to believe it. So it says here, foreign minister to China from Israel, Iran biggest threat to world peace, not the last nationalist Zionist state of Israel, and they're all basically owned by the same families. But it says here, strong, long 7.9 quake shakes Mexico City on March 20th. But the crazy thing is, March 2nd, 2012, the Mexican government was actually preparing for the next emergency, which was going to be for what? Oh, March 20th, state authorities of civil protection performed exercise that tests before the cabinet to simulate the response to a contingency situation of an earthquake measuring 7.9. So they're talking about continuity of government here. State Emergency Committee is a unified coordination group in order to consolidate all operational elements relating to health and emergency management to restoration of strategic services. So it's much like Obama's executive order, right, with the resources preparedness bill. Mexico prepares for the Pope to visit after the nice buzz. The Vatican's bank account has been closed. They're trying to meet EU's transparency rules, which were called on by the Pope himself. Mexico president vows to end the war on drugs, but Mexico's military is being trained by special forces to fight the drug cartels. Maybe it's for guns. No, when they do get suspects, they let them go.